Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Sammy's Sweet Life, and I am doing a meal prep video this week. I really enjoy doing these. I found that I don't like prepping like full meals to just reheat throughout the week. I like to prep individual steps. So I do a lot of chopping, a lot of the things that are gonna take a lot of time. I'm also gonna be prepping chicken pot pie for the freezer today. So I'm gonna have quick, easy snacks available in the fridge. And so that's kind of how I meal prep. So first up, I'm going to be making some Mexican rice, and this is just a recipe I have found that's very similar to one of our favorite Mexican places. And so I've got my rice here. I have rinsed this. It's just white rice. And when I measure out my cups of rice, I use this little cup that came with my actual rice cooker. I now use the Instant Pot, but I still kept the cup. It's about 3/4 of a cup. So I do one of these cups, or 3/4 of a cup of rice to 1 cup of water. And I have already rinsed this. There is a teeny tiny bit of water still in there, if you guys can see. So I'm going to go ahead and add 3 cups of water to this. I am also going to be adding some bouillon base. If you use chicken broth or vegetable broth, you can just go ahead and add that in place of the water. I'm just gonna add a scoop of this. It says 1 teaspoon to make a 1 teaspoon to make an 8-ounce can. And so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball that, use a couple of teaspoons to work in here. And then I'm also going to add some tomato paste. And again, I'm going to eyeball this. I'm just going to add a couple of tablespoons from this tube. And I found I really like this one because it comes in a tube and I can refrigerate it versus the canned ones where I kind of have to use those immediately. A little bit goes a long way for this. And then I'm going to also add in some diced peppers. I'm going to be putting diced peppers in my bean salad. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this ready and add in some diced peppers. First step's going to just be adding the water and the flavorings, and then I'll get chopping. All right, I've got my water in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add a scoop of this. So I just use a regular spoon and just add a big scoop into there. My tomato paste. That's probably good. I like this one. I can just stick it right back in the freezer. And then I give this a whisk, and I find that it's okay if it doesn't break up 100%, but I want to break up, you know, the really big chunks of that bouillon. And I also want to knock down all the rice on the sides so that it will cook as well. All right, I'm just going to give that a quick whisk and make sure I broke up the big chunks. And now I'm going to work on chopping. These ones will go in my pasta salad, and then I diced these ones really, really small to go into the Mexican rice. So I'm going to just go ahead and put these in. Like so. I'm going to give them a little mix. They kind of float to the top, so they're not going to really mix in all that great. And then I'm going to pop this in the Instant Pot on high pressure for 4 minutes, and then I'm going to let it come down from natural pressure for at least 15 minutes. I'll probably get busy with other things and just leave it in there until I'm ready to take it out. So let's go ahead and put this in, and then I'll start working on the pasta salad. I just set up my Instant Pot, so my Mexican rice is working. Now I'm gonna work on my pasta salad. It's actually just a bean salad. I keep calling it pasta salad because this is the way I used to make pasta salad. It's the same thing, I'm just leaving out the pasta and adding more vegetables. So it's just beans and vegetables. And so I have this container. It's a 64-ounce Ziploc container. I really like these. They're just airtight containers, and they work great for in the fridge or freezing. And so I've got my 2 peppers in here. This is most of a green and red pepper, and I gave these just a coarse chop here, so I have bigger chunks. I am going to add in some olives, and I found when I was using the can of sliced olives, I did not have enough olives, so I went ahead and added a can of whatever olives we had, which happened to be these small olives. I did not chop them up, and I found it to be perfectly fine. So this time I'm not going to do any olive chopping, and I went ahead and just bought 2 cans of the small olives. I also will add a can of garbanzo beans. I'm going to rinse these, and I'm just going to drain these. And then I also had planned on adding an entire can of black beans, but Olivia wanted some last night, and so I'll add like a half a can, so I'll leave some in the fridge for her. So one other thing, I just realized I'm not wearing my wedding bands because I ended up getting a rash on my finger. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's starting to clear up. I am really sensitive to things, I must have gotten some soap or face wash or cleaner or something underneath my bands, and it started getting really rashy, like all the way around the underside of my ring. So I haven't worn it in a few days. I feel really naked, but I have to let it, you know, air dry. I don't know if somebody would comment, but I feel really naked without it. You can see like my tan line for where my rings are supposed to be. I have a tan line here. I just hardly ever take off my rings. So I'm filming this video feeling naked, but I wanted to let you guys know what's going on with that. But anyway, I'll go ahead and get my veggies all in here, and then we're gonna make the Italian dressing for this. I wanna leave some in the fridge for her for the next couple of days. Olivia really likes black beans. All right, I'm gonna get all my veggies in here. Woo! So it is full. I lost a couple of chickpeas. Okay, first things first, I will link to the exact recipe that I started with. Kind of tweaking this recipe a little bit, so you can take with it what you will, but I'll link to the original below. I'm just using a blender cup. I found it's much easier to blend everything together that way. And so I am starting with a lemon here. I'm gonna use half of this lemon, and I always just roll it a little bit to hopefully get out some more juice. I'm just gonna use half of it, and I will store the other half for something else later in the week. And so what I do is I go ahead and squeeze my juice here on the plate or in a small bowl so that I can make sure I'm getting those seeds out. I definitely don't want those in my dressing. Then I'm going to just use my fingers and get those seeds out. Maybe. They are slippery. I do have a little tiny strainer that I've used in the past. That was the Mexican rice coming to pressure. But I find that I don't want to use all the tools. I also have a lemon reamer to get the juice out, but then it's just more things for me to wash. I'm just trying to use as few dishes as possible for this. So I'm going to just add that in. I'm also going to add in a little bit of minced garlic. I just buy the little tub of garlic, and then some more of the bouillon seasoning. It just adds a little bit of depth of flavor to this. I also have avocado oil, apple cider vinegar, cracked black pepper, and I'm gonna sweeten it up just a little bit with some maple syrup. This is just the Costco maple syrup. And then for spices, I have parsley, oregano, and basil. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little of each in. And so I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting everything in. I just add the teeny tiniest little splash of this. And I like a lot of garlic, so I'm gonna add a decent size scoop of that. That's probably about a clove of garlic. Then a splash of maple syrup so I can get these refrigerated items back in the fridge. Just a teeny tiny little bit of that. All right, and I got out the tablespoon because it's really about a 3-to-1 ratio for the oil to vinegar. And I did add in some lemon juice, which also adds to that acidity. So I'm not gonna do a full tablespoon of the apple cider vinegar, just maybe half to 3/4 of a tablespoon, because I already added the lemon juice. I do want it to be tangy, but I don't want it to be overpoweringly tangy. And then I'm gonna add 3 full tablespoons of the avocado oil. And so when I made this last time, I used the measurements much closer to the recipe, and it made way too much dressing for my pasta salad. It was just kind of swimming in dressing at the bottom of the container. So I am making a much smaller little batch. It will probably still be too much dressing, but it'll be much closer to the amount I need. Next time I may go with teaspoons if this ends up being a ton. So I'm gonna add some pepper. And also, I'm not going to measure any of these. I just give it a little sprinkle of each. And I'm going to add the most of the basil because I think that gives it really good flavor. And just a sprinkle of oregano. And then I'm going to go ahead and stick this in my Ninja blender for a couple of seconds just to get it all nice and combined. So while I was doing this, my Mexican rice beeped that it was done, so it's gonna be coming down from pressure, and that's my dressing. It's just, you know, a couple of tablespoons full of dressing. And the blender kind of makes it a little bit frothy, which I like. It combines it really well. And so I'm gonna dump this over and just start mixing it up. Last time I also contemplated using a bigger mixing bowl, but then I thought I'd have to waste more dishes, so I'll just work with some of the things rolling out. And every time I go to eat this, I go ahead and give it a mix to make sure that everything's nice and coated in the dressing. All right, there it is. This is one of those recipes that you could completely change up and make it however you want. You could play with the dressing recipe, you can play with the ingredients in it. If you like raw onion, you could put raw onions in there. You can leave out whatever ingredient you don't like or add more of whatever you do like. One of my favorite things is the olives, so I had 2 cans of those with everything else. I just kept coming back to the salad all week long, and it was just such a nice, healthy, refreshing thing to have. It's cold from the fridge. We're in Texas, so it's really hot, and it's nice to be able to just grab something. Now I'm gonna go ahead and work on an oat ball recipe that I really like. I found this one from Danny Spees at Clean and Delicious. I will link to that recipe down below. She does have a video on it. I just make one little change to it. Before we get started on the oat bites, I want to share this one quick thing with you guys. I have loved having these personal watermelons. I find that I can't get through a whole watermelon before it goes bad because it's really just me eating watermelon. Olivia could take it or leave it, and Johnny doesn't really like it. So I buy the personal watermelons, I cut them in half, stick them in a large bowl, and when I'm cutting them in half, I go ahead and score the inside of it, and then I can just use a spoon to kind of scoop out the bites, and I just have loved that. I wrap it in a piece of plastic wrap, and it's good in the fridge for a couple of days like that. And it's just a perfect size. I can grab the whole bowl out and enjoy a quick, easy snack. It's already prepped, so I'll have a watermelon just cut up in the fridge pretty much at all times lately. I've been loving that. So I wanted to share that quick tip with you guys. I hate having to cut through the rind, so I find that just cutting it in half works great for me to just be able to scoop it out. All right, so let's go ahead and work on the oat bites. So this recipe only takes 6 ingredients. I'm going to somewhat eyeball some of the measurements. I had found this recipe on Danny's YouTube channel, and it called for mini chocolate chips, but I didn't have any, so I used cocoa powder, and so I'm gonna do that again. I really liked how it turned out. It made them really dark and chocolatey, and I loved it. So I've got cocoa powder, flaxseed. These are actually rolled oats. It says quick oats, but they're actually just the old-fashioned rolled oats. Some maple syrup, some peanut butter. I'm using creamy instead of crunchy, and then vanilla. So I am going to go ahead and add everything in. I will link to her video so you can see the exact measurements of everything. Right as much of the flaxseed as you're supposed to. You're supposed to use a whole half a cup, and I'm gonna make this a little bit less than half a cup. I can scoop it out of this container, just because the cocoa powder does absorb some of the moisture, and I don't want them to be really, really dry. So there you go, you can see it's not quite a half a cup. I'm almost out of peanut butter in this jar, so I'm gonna go ahead and just use the same spoon, because I think I'm going to pretty much finish this jar. Now I'm just gonna smush everything together. If it's too dry, you add in more maple syrup. If it's too wet, you add in more flax seeds or oats. But I found that they did seem to absorb all the liquid, so I'm gonna leave mine a little bit stickier than I left them last time because they dried out just a touch. I might give it a touch more oats and then call it good. Okay, so there is my mixture. I found a cheater way to do this. You can roll it between your hands, but I don't like to get my hands that dirty. So I use a little cookie scoop. It has the little mechanism to scrape it out. And I find that I can get about 12 of these, and so I have a container that will hold them really nicely. They do stick a little bit, so I go ahead and spray this with olive oil spray. I just have some olive oil in this pressurized thing. And so I still have some stuff on this fork I'm gonna try to mix in real quick. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so time for scooping. I just press it against the sides and then scoop. Well, I made 11 this time where last time I made 12. I just store them in the fridge in the Snapware container, and when I'm really feeling like something chocolatey and sweet, I grab one of these. I also found the best one was the room temp one right after being made, so I'm gonna go ahead and snack on one of these before I pop this in the fridge. Okay, I'm afraid this is gonna steam up a little bit because this just came out, but I wanted to show you what it looked like when it first comes out. I just grab a fork and fluff it up. You can see it's not a very deep color, and of course, you know, it's fogging up. Okay, so I'm gonna hold the camera like this. It's not a very deep color, just a little bit of a yellow tint to the rice. I go ahead and mix it up, and I'm gonna let this cool. I can just leave it in here, and Johnny can scoop some out as needed, but I tend to portion it in containers. This will make 2 full meal sides for us, and then a couple of smaller containers for him to just heat up as he wants, or to take in his lunchbox with him instead of his normal everyday sandwich. There it is. I'm just gonna let this cool. Now I am working on my chicken pot pies for the freezer. I do have a recipe, possibly 2 of these recipes on my channel already for the chicken pot pie. I just went ahead and made my roux. It's working on cooling right now, and I ended up buying my chicken. This is just shredded chicken that I bought at my grocery store, which is H-E-B. I have done my own shredded chicken in the past, but this was just a simple, easy way to go ahead and have it. And so I'm gonna go ahead and chop this up. I washed off that cutting pad that I cut the peppers up in. I'm not gonna use the whole thing. I'm not gonna use this whole thing because we're going to have this for meals the next couple of nights. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that part back in the fridge and just chop this up a little bit better because it is, you know, bigger pieces. This is still pretty hot, so you may get some steam, but I just made a basic roux here. I added a little bit of the vegetable broth in here, and this is dairy-free. I used olive oil and flour as the base, and then I added coconut milk, just the unsweetened coconut milk. You guys have seen it in my grocery hauls. I just added some of that as the liquid in here, and I added some spices, some parsley, pepper, minced onion, minced garlic, and some chives. So that's what that part is. This is just gonna be the base of our chicken pot pie. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my chicken. And I've got a lot of frozen veggies to add in here. I can go ahead and get rid of this whisk. I'm gonna use a spatula for this. Actually, I grabbed a spoon so that I could go ahead and scoop it into my dishes when I'm done. So there's the chicken in there. And so I bought this bag of frozen veggies specifically for this broccoli stir fry, but I also have some corn and some green beans that I'm gonna throw in. And I had lost my voice after my last meal prep with me, and I ended up prepping some celery, and I've just had this in the freezer. It's just diced up celery, so I can add it to things like chicken noodle soup or recipes like this, just when I need a tiny bit of celery to add some extra flavor. I'm gonna just add a little bit of this in here. I have had these sitting out just a little bit, so they're kind of soft. I noticed there's still a kind of a big chunk, but you can see the size of the celery pieces. I just cut down the celery stalk a couple of times and then diced it finely. So they're just smaller pieces in there. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my whole bag of veggies that I bought specifically for this recipe. I always just kind of change up the veggies depending on what I have or what I feel like buying for that time. This one's a really nice mix because it has the red peppers and onions in it. And then some corn. This is where you can really play around with it. I tend to not buy the bags that have the frozen peas because Johnny does not like those green peas. So I, you know, can make it myself or buy the bags without peas. It really just depends on what your family's taste is. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on because this is still pretty hot. I'm gonna mix this up and see how it is. Oops, see, there's a chunk of corn in there. I kind of try to break up everything. That looks pretty good. I think I'm gonna add in a little bit more corn and a little bit more of the green beans, but I want it to have that kind of consistency where everything's coated in the filling but not soupy. I don't want it to be really soupy because when these melt and when these bake, they will add some more moisture to the recipe. Okay, I think this will be the last little bit. Okay, I think that looks good. I'm gonna try to make 2 big casseroles that'll feed us for a couple of nights. So again, I'm using the same kind of Snapware containers I've been using. This is cooled down now. So I'm going to try to fill 2 of these up, and if I have any extra, I'll use some of the larger square ones that Johnny can have as individual meals. And now I totally cheat with my chicken pot pie. I cook the filling just like a casserole, and I make the biscuits on the side so everything cooks really quickly that way. And if I think ahead of time, I'll set this in the fridge the night before, and so it'll be thawed out just a little bit. I usually use these as meals on nights that I don't really feel like cooking, and so I will just pop it straight from the freezer. I don't really plan ahead for these. So let's see if I can do this on camera here. I'm gonna try to scoop it in here the best I can. This is one of Johnny's favorite dishes. I like to have some of these frozen for him, but I haven't made these in quite a while. I think I burned myself out on making it because I get really sick of it. I think it's gonna be perfect for these too. I'm just gonna go ahead and fill both of these up. And then this will be at least a couple of nights worth of meals. All right, so if I'm not feeling like cooking, we'll just have one of these together, and then he'll take whatever leftovers for lunch. Or if I'm feeling like having something like soup and he doesn't necessarily want that, I will get one of these out for the next 2 nights for him. So he'll eat it 2 nights and probably a lunch. So these big containers work really nicely. I just kind of smooth everything out. And I'm gonna pop both of those in the freezer. So I hope you guys enjoyed this meal prep with me video. It's just super simple, easy stuff. I will be making a veggie ramen video for you guys very soon. I know people have been asking about that one. That'll be my next video to make in the kitchen. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you like these meal prep with me type videos, please give me a thumbs up so I know that you guys really like them. I love making food related videos for you guys, especially when we're trying to eat a little bit healthier. It's really nice to have the stuff made. Filming these videos definitely motivates me to meal prep, and so I have stuff ready. And so I hope you guys really like it. Have a great day, and I will catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye. And now it's time for the cleanup.